Okay. Oh. So text 34 is Anilopi vikurvano nabhasoru balanvita sasarja rupatan matram jyoti lokshaya lochanam. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, the extremely powerful air interacting with the sky generated the form of sense perception, and the perception of form transformed into electricity, which is the light to see the world. Go on to the next verse, text 35. Anilenanvitam jyotir vikurvat paravikshitam adhattamborasamayam kalamayam sayogataha. When electricity was surcharged in the air and was glanced over by the Supreme, at that time, by a mixture of eternal time and external energy, there occurred the creation of water and taste. And then the final verse, text 36. Jyoti sambhon nusham rishtam vikurvat brahma vikshitam mahim gandha gunam adha kalamayam sayogataha. So do the synonyms for this verse, word for word. Jyotisha, electricity. Ambha, water. Anushamsritam, thus created. Vikurvat, due to transformation. Brahma, the supreme. Vikshitam, so glanced over. Mahim, the earth. Gandha, smell. Gunam, qualification. Adhat was created. Kala, eternal time. Maya, external energy. Amsha, partially. Yogataha, by intermixture. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, the water produced from electricity was glanced over by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and mixed with eternal time and external energy. Thus, it was transformed into the earth, which is qualified primarily by smell. Report. From the descriptions of the physical elements in the above verses, it is clear that in all stages the glance of the Supreme is needed with the other additions and alterations. In every transformation, the last finishing touch is the glance of the Lord, who acts as a painter does when he mixes different colors to transform them into a particular color. When one element mixes with another, the number of its qualities increases. For example, the sky is the cause of air. The sky has only one quality, namely sound. But by the interaction of the sky with the glance of the Lord, mixed with eternal time and external nature, the air is produced, which has two qualities, sound and touch. Similarly, after the air is created, the interaction of sky and air touched by time, the external energy of the Lord produces electricity. Next, the interaction of electricity with air and sky mixed with time, the external energy and the Lord's glance over them produces water. In the final stage of sky, there is one quality, namely sound. In the air, two qualities, sound and touch. In the electricity, three qualities, namely sound, touch, and form. In the water, four qualities, sound, touch, form, and taste. And in the last stage of physical development, the result is earth, which has all five qualities, sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Although they are different mixtures of different materials, such mixtures do not take place automatically, just as a mixture of colors does not take place automatically without the touch of the living painter. The automatic system is factually activated by the glancing touch of the Lord. Living consciousness is the final word in all physical changes. This fact is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9.10 as follows. Maya dhakshena prakriti sriyate sacharacharam etuna nena kaunteya jagat viparivartate. The conclusion is that the physical elements may work very wonderfully to the layman's eyes, but their workings actually take place under the supervision of the Lord. Those who can mark only the changes of the physical elements and cannot perceive the hidden hands of the Lord behind them are certainly less intelligent persons, although they may be advertised as great material scientists. Should we continue though or stop here?
Continue with Mathaji.
Should we go on or just read and stop?
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, yeah, we have 7 more minutes. So
Okay, it's going to take longer if I do the whole thing, but okay, fine. Just invoke the Mangala chant prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnaprishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarini. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam discussion. I am completely unqualified, especially in this section, which is so technical about the cosmic creation. So before I start, I'd like to seek the blessings of my Guru Maharaj and all the wonderful devotees that are here as well as not here today, so I may speak something of some value. So, this is the talk about creation, where Maitreya Muni is explaining to Vidura in response to his various questions. In particular, he had asked about the Purusha avatars and many other questions that we've been hearing about these last few days in the Bhagavatam reading. Of course, this is a very, very technical part. It is not like the Leelas, the pastimes, the stories which we enjoy, and nor is it the the prayers, the heart-touching prayers of Kunti Maharani. But we'll see what we are able to understand. So we've learned that only by the Lord's glance can the various elements of creation manifest. And we heard that Pradhan transforms into Mahatattva by the Lord's glance. And when the Lord glances over Mahatattva, it transforms into false ego. And that in interaction with the three modes creates first mind and senses, and then sense objects and the gross elements. And yesterday we heard that the sky is a product of sound, and sound is actually a transformation of that egoistic ignorance. And then we heard that when the Lord glances over the sky, mixed with eternal time and external energy, it develops the touch sensation from which air in the sky was produced. And then today we read about the next steps, where electricity is produced and water is produced and then earth is produced. So let's take a look at these. In a chart, I felt that just for me, it always helps to look at things pictorially. Pictures speak 1,000 words. So I put together some slides. And actually before that, just once again to emphasize the fact that for all of these transformations that we, have been talking about and we will look at, one common factor is the glance of the Lord, which triggers, that change. Something that is subtle and not really perceivable or not tangible. And, it stays unmanifest until someone takes some action, right? And in the case of creation, it is the Lord's glance. So, yeah. So at every stage, the Lord's glance is what makes things happen. And here is a picture of our own Shyam Sundar's, beautiful glance at our temple. So regal, so beautiful. So I thought I would add that here. So moving on, this is a representation of the, of what happens, right, as the gross elements are created. So we heard yesterday that sky is a product of sound. Now, when the sky is mixed with eternal time and external energy, Maya, it produces air, right? And the sensation of touch is produced. Air, when mixed with that's combined with the sky and in the presence of eternal time and Maya, gives that sensation, the perception of form, or Prabhupada says electricity is created. In the Sanskrit, it says Jyoti is created, right? With the sensation of form, which is the light to see. And then again, electricity combined with air in the presence of eternal time and external energy, material energy, Maya, gives rise to taste, and water is produced. So we hear from Srimad Bhagavat, from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Rasoham apsukanteya, right? That I am the taste of water. So, water has taste, and that taste gets added on to the quality of water. And then finally, Bhumi is created when water interacts, in water, electricity, etc., interacts with eternal time and Maya. So we see that, as we go from subtle to gross, the qualities of the elements that are produced, grow, and we are able to perceive them. Progressively, we are able to perceive them with much more intensity, with many more senses, right? And of course, for everything, as Prabhupada mentions, the glance of the Lord is extremely, is the one that sets everything into motion and triggers those changes. Now, Prabhupada also talks about the painter, right? He gives a nice analogy for us to help us understand that glance and that, physical, the life consciousness, the living consciousness, which is the trigger for all changes. So we have the primary colors, red, blue, green, and like Prabhupada says, these different colors mix together to form many new colors, right? But although these, all of these elements are there, but these different mixtures and newer colors that happen, they don't happen just automatically, right? It happens with the touch of a living painter, right? There's that hand, which in the case of cosmic creation is the touch, is the glance of the Lord, right? And that is that living consciousness, which is the final word, as Prabhupada says, in all physical changes. Now, yeah, and then Prabhupada also mentions that, let's go back to the verse. He also mentions that, that this fact is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So let's take a look at that verse 9.10. So it says, Maya Dakshina Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetu Nanena Konteya Jagat Tipadi Vartate. So the Lord himself has said that the material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. And under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So in the purport, Prabhupada elaborates that it is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. And the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Will and the background of this material manifestation. But the management is being conducted by material nature. And of course, Krishna also talks about how he is the seed-giving father of all species in this material world, right? And it is through his glance that he injects the living entities into the womb of material nature. So Prabhupada's conclusion is that, physical elements, while to a layman's eye, it may look like everything is working very wonderfully without any intervention, but it is known to the devotees, once you read the Bhagavatam and once, you understand this and realize that everything actually takes place under the supervision of the Lord. And Prabhupada says that those who can mark only the changes of the physical elements but cannot perceive the hidden hands of the Lord behind them are certainly less intelligent persons, although they may be advertised as great material scientists. So if we delve into that a little bit, right, the fact that most people are not able to perceive the hand of the Lord. In fact, outside the association of devotees, we often hear that all the meticulous working of the various elements of the universe, right? The sun rising without fail every morning, setting in the evening, the planets revolving around the sun, without banging into each other, the seasons coming like clockwork, right? The seasons change. All of this is often attributed to just nature, that it's all nature. Of course, modern physics has used this term Big Bang theory as an explanation of creation. So apparently from nothing, suddenly there was this big explosion and everything just happened, and everything's so perfect, right? Even if we look at other, what some of the other traditions or religions say, Christianity talks about creation in some detail. It talks about creation in terms of the 6 days of creation. So they say in Genesis 1, it says that on day 1, God created light. Day 2, he created sky, and so on. And then in day 5, he created creatures that fly that fly, and creatures in the sea. And then in day 6, animals on land were created and human beings were created. And human beings are created in the image of God. And then in Genesis 2, there is some elaboration of the day 6, when human beings are created. So there's nothing close to, even close to the detail and the specifics that we find in the Bhagavatam, which is laid out so logically. And while it may be difficult for us to understand, but it is still so detailed out. So right now in our Bhagavatam reading group, we are reading Canto 5, and it is mind-boggling the amount of detail about the structure of the universe, the exact expanse of the universe, for example, which is, it says 4 billion miles from the top of the universe to the bottom. The diameter is 4 billion miles. Each of these planets are at a distance of 1.6 million miles, one above the other. And then it talks about the sun, that the sun travels. The sun actually travels. I mean, while in physics we hear that the sun stays stationary and everything else goes around it. In Bhagavatam, we hear in Canto 5 that the sun actually travels, and I believe it covers like 780 million miles and at the speed of 16,004 miles per moment, per muhurta. So it's just, it's amazing. It's just so inconceivable. Now, to explain why, it is difficult to perceive, to understand the hand of God, Prabhupada has actually spoken about it in one of his purports. Take a look at that. In Canto 4, Prabhupada talks about why people are unable to perceive the hand of God in this, beautiful and in this wonderful, perfectly created universe. So here it is, the purport. He's written that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the origin of the cosmic manifestation, is covered by the wonderful activities of material nature. Just as outer space or the illumination of the sun and moon is sometimes covered by clouds or dust, it is very difficult to find the origin of the cosmic creation, cosmic manifestation. Therefore, the material scientists conclude that nature is the ultimate cause of all manifestations. So the Lord is covered by all the activities of material nature. And that's why, the material scientists feel that, it's just nature that is, the cause of all these manifestations and the working of the universe. So it is only from the Shastras or, authentic literature like Bhagavad Gita and the other Vedic scriptures that we understand that behind this wonderful cosmic manifestation is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in order to maintain the regular procedure of the cosmic manifestation and to be visible to the eyes of the persons who are in the modes of goodness, the Lord appears. He is the cause of creation and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation. And therefore, in this verse, the demigods are praying for his merciful glance upon them. So this is where his merciful glance is being prayed for by the demigods. So if you look at the verse itself, it says that let that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is understood by truly authorized Vedic literature and who has created peace and prosperity to destroy all calamities of the created world, be kind enough to bestow his glance upon the demigods, because his merciful glance can supersede the beauty of the spotless lotus flower, which is the home of the goddess of fortune. So the glance of the Lord, right, that glance which creates the universe, is coveted by all, even the demigods, because it's such a great benediction to have the merciful glance of God upon us. And the potency of the Lord's glance, there are so many. Right? Firstly, of course, we heard about this inconceivable material world where everything is working so perfectly. And the Lord creates it with his glance and his energies. He in Brahma Samhita, there's the verse which says Anganiyasya Sakalendriya Vidhimanti, which means with his glance he accepts our actually with any part of his body he can perform the action of any other part. And so when we make our bhoga offerings, he accepts them with his glance. His glance can revive a dead person. When the cowherd boys drank the poisonous water of the river Yamuna, when Kaliya was there, they all died. And Krishna brought them back to life. He just glanced over them and brought them back to life. Now, in contrast, in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, by his glance, he took away or reduced the lifespan of the soldiers of the opposite side. So he went in the middle of the battlefield and glanced at them, and that reduced their lifespan. Now, of course, his glance is still so auspicious because since they died in his presence, they all attained salvation, right? All these soldiers attained salvation. So we should be hankering for the Lord's glance, right? We should be praying, please please cast your merciful glance upon me. And Prabhupada very nicely, very sweetly explains how to get that, glance of the Lord. Right? He says that, serve the Lord in such a way that the Lord sees you. So, yeah. And of course, just by going to the temple and standing in front of the deities and praying, Vandanam is one of the angas of devotional service, of the 9 processes of devotional service. So, just praying to him that, oh Lord, please cast your glance upon me, just like the demigods are praying. So, of course, in our temple, actually before that, you may be aware that we are reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita with Vamsari Prabhu has initiated this. Every day at noontime, we read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there we came across this verse, and this is Krishnadas Kaviraj talking about, about Gaura Hari, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so this is in Adi, chapter 3, verse 62. And it says, Bahutuli Hori Boli Prem Drishti Jai Koriya Kalmosh Nash Prenate Bhasha. So the translation is Bahutuli, raising his arms, Hori Boli, chanting the holy name, Prema Drishte, he looks upon all with deep love. And by doing that, he drives away all sins and floods everyone with the love of Godhead. So we are fortunate that in our temple, we now have Gaur Hari as well, along with Radha Shyam Sundar and Radha Madhav. So I thought, maybe we can take a quick darshan of them and pray for their merciful glance upon us. We have Radha Shyam Sundar, we have Radha Madhav, and then our dear, Gaur Hari in close up. So we can, pray to him that, that he cast his glance upon us. And actually the next verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita says that Shri Anga Shri Mukh Je Kare Darshan Tar Pap Khai Hai Pai Premathan. So it says that anyone who looks upon his beautiful body or beautiful face becomes freed from all sins and obtains the wealth of life. So with that prayer, craving for the Lord's glance, we'll stop here. Please forgive me if I have misspoken anything. Thank you very much. Please add, Jyoti Mataji, I know you're the only one there. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yeah, Mataji, nice class. I told you earlier it's my first class, but I feel like connected with this class, Mataji, today, just to say glance.
Yes.
Yeah, Mataji, it's like I'm feeling something inside me right now, and I want to do prayer for you, Mataji. Yeah, I'm like not a speakable person all the time in my class also. I just listen, Mataji, that's all.
Mataji, thank you so much for staying.
But nice class, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. And thank you so much, Mataji, for being here. And I know others had to drop because we had some technical issues, but so I will stop here.
Sure.
Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premananda. Hari Hari Gaur.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Vaishnavi. Hare Krishna.